Good afternoon. I'm here with PSYC CS 3790 at the Georgia Institute of Technology to talk with you today about the psychology of authority. I'll be covering 5 primary areas: power distance, compliance, authoritarian roles, the social perspective, and finally, defying authority. Let's begin. Power distance and authoritarian relationships. Power distance reflects the degree to which an individual prefers an autocratic or consultative style of authority. Low means that you prefer interdependence with superiors, while high means that you prefer directives from your superiors. Basically, how rigid do you want your boss to be? Continuing on, there are vast cultural differences in power distance globally. American society tends to be very low in power distance, while Asian societies tend to be very high in power distance. Hofstede's Power Distance Index ranks countries based on their power distance. The highest is Malaysia, while the lowest is Austria. Does power distance affect how people view authority figures' decisions? Yes, it does. With low power distance, people are concerned with how they are treated and respected by their authority figures, whereas with high power distance, people are more concerned with the actual outcomes of their authority figures' decisions. Moving on now to compliance with authority. There are different approaches to studying compliance. In philosophy, researchers seek to understand compliance by understanding arguments people have. In social psychology, researchers try to understand compliance by studying society. Finally, some research seekers seek to understand the underlying psychological needs that compliance fills. There are different techniques to gain compliance. The foot in the door technique is when you start with a small request and gradually make it bigger. The door in the face technique is when you start with a huge request and then back down from that to get what you really want. Using the norm of reciprocity is when you take advantage of the norm to comply with someone's request if they have already complied with yours. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. There's lots of research done into compliance. Karakatos and Zizzo recently did a study showing that authority is a strong factor in a compliance, whereas Milgram's experiment continues even more. We'll be discussing that more shortly. Here we'll discuss the power of authoritarian rules. Psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted authority experiments to measure the willingness of study participants to obey an authority figure who asked them to perform acts against their own morals. He conducted the experiment to explore the conflict between obedience to authority and personal conscience to explain the acts of genocide by those in the Nuremberg war criminal trials from World War II. The experiment found, unexpectedly, 65% of participants completed the procedure, even if apparently causing serious injury and distress. People are very likely to follow orders from authority figures, even to the extent of harming or potentially killing another human. This is especially true if the participant is told they are not responsible for any outcome that their action may have. Now we'll discuss authority relationship from a social perspective. The social representations theory, or a system of ideas, practices, images, and values with their own cultural meaning, is key to this. In a study, participants were engaged in an exercise of free association and asked to define obedience and disobedience. The results were collected, analyzed, and compiled using thematic analysis and a software package called EVOC 2000. Conformity, presence of reflection, fear of punishment, types of authority, no individuality, positive and negative connotation captured the sentiments of participants towards authority. People view obedience as something that you learn through your upbringing, and it's enforced with punishment. Some people view compliance with authority as something you do because of social hierarchy, while others view obedience as something more voluntary that's done out of a sense of obligation and a desire to conform with social norms. Lastly, today we'll be discussing defying authority. In order for a person to resist authority, they must contain a regulatory process for self-control, which inherently is a limited resource that can become depleted. How the individual differences in the regulatory process for self-control are handled, and when these differences highlight susceptibility to authority is a question many researchers hope to answer. The idea of the need for cognitive closure, which is concerned with a desire for predictability, preference for order and structure, and a discomfort with ambiguity, decisiveness, and closed-mindedness, is related to disobedience. Researchers looked at 2 different studies using a Stroop exam, followed by defying or preparing to defy a high or low authority figure. From this, in neither study was there any individual differences between authority and self-regulatory behavior. However, the presence of differences in NCC changed the context of interaction with high or low authority figures. In conclusion, there are many aspects of authority worth exploring. Power distance, compliance, authority rules, the social psychology of authority, and defying authority are just some of them. As we expand our knowledge in these areas, we can understand an important and frequently encountered relationship in a society, that of the psychology of authority. Thank you for watching our video. I hope you have a good day.